Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. In today's episode of Garden Ramblings, going to tour the garden, really look at the cool weather crops, give you tips on different things that I'm growing, and just really see what's going on. It's around April 20th, last week of April. We're going to possibly get a light frost. I haven't put out my pepper plants, tomato plants, warm weather crops yet, but I'm going to, I think, towards the end of this week. Just want to show you this mulch. This is like double shredded, triple shredded hardwood mulch. Shenandoah is the company that makes it. I don't know if you get it in your area, but I love it. It's nice and fine, nice dark brown. Spent a lot of time mulching the garden over here and using the product over in those bags. Great product, except after a couple weeks, it's just very pale looking and stuff. So I'm going to stop mulching for now, see how that brown mulch holds up over time. Before we go into the garden, I want to show you the rhubarb. On the left here is a second year rhubarb, grew all last year, established, and just look how beautiful it is. I'm gonna have to start harvesting some of that. It's sending out flower stalks, which I don't know if people know that, but it will send up flowers. And I imagine I'm supposed to remove those. I've not had rhubarb get to this size, so I'm not really sure what to do. So I'll be checking that out, seeing if I should remove it. And then down here is a rhubarb that I planted, I don't know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks ago. So that will eventually look like that. 2 plants, it's going to be plenty of rhubarb for my wife and I, or for me and my wife, I guess is the proper way to say it. That's all you need. This was kind of difficult for me to figure out where to grow it. I was growing it in a place that was just getting sun that was beating down on it, and it just didn't come back year after year, didn't do well. This area gets a little bit of shade, still getting a solid 8 hours of sun, but it seems to do better right here. Grapes are starting to leaf out, looking forward to that. I mean, overall, things are going and growing really nicely. Garlic looks good. You can see how nice and green it is. That's going to probably get fed very lightly with a little bit water-soluble fertilizer. Not like, you fill up a gallon. I'm not going to pour a gallon over that. It's just going to get a quick splash. A little bit more nitrogen, see how it does. But it looks good. When your plants are growing well, don't feel like you have to do more to them. Give them more fertilizer, over-fertilize them. Just let them do their thing. You probably spend a lot of time setting up the soil, putting stuff in there. They don't need a lot of NP and K. As long as you have consistent amounts in there, they're going to be fine. One random bag that has to go somewhere. Put in some more onions along here. Have cabbages growing along there. And I did video on a cage of how to kind of protect them. One thing that I didn't do on this one is I didn't stake it down. We got our 30-mile-an-hour winds like we get every once in a while. It blew over that night. There were 4 plants in there, so a rabbit came in and ate them right away. It works really well. You just got to make sure you stake down the cages. This is something I built, I think I showed it in last one. Just 4 posts, wrap the chicken wire around, threw a top on there just to keep out the butterfly so it doesn't lay the eggs on my brassicas in there. And they're doing really well. Artichokes look good. Lettuce all back there looking good. Things are growing nicely. Potatoes are all up and popping. These are probably going to get, again, a light feeding of water soluble. And what does that mean? I do the right dosage, but I'll fill up the gallon and I'll just do 1, 2, 3 and be done with it. And that's all I'm going to do with these really for a while. These are my indeterminate variety potatoes, so as these get a little bit taller, I'll start backfilling in there so that I get more potatoes growing out from the stems. Onions. These were onion sets, which were the little tiny onions, doing really well. All of this arugula, and I think that's pak choy maybe in there, bok choy. That's all going to get pulled out. I've been eating the flowers, but they just flower and set so many buds, you can only eat so many. Turnips look good. I mean, things are growing well. I like today, last night got down to like 39 degrees. It was warming up too fast, and I was afraid that a lot of my broccoli was going to flower. A lot of my lettuce was going to flower. It was going to bolt. And just so that you know, your cool weather crops, when your root systems get to 75 degrees consistently over a week's period, and warmer, instead of just growing beautiful leaves. I mean, look how nice the red romaine looks. Instead of just forming nice heads, they send out a flower stalk because they got the message with warm roots to set flowers and then set seed pods. And we don't want that to happen. We want them to kind of grow slow and steady with cool weather and get beautiful heads of broccoli, cauliflower, heads of lettuce. Peas are looking good. They're taking off. These all went in on March 4th. Again, I think it's about April 20th. They take a while. As it's warming, these are starting to take off. And this is just a little experimental bed for designs for people. So I have red romaine, some onions, radishes, some peas are right in there. And then I have mustard greens around a kale. I want to see if that repels that white butterfly that comes and lays those green worm eggs on everything. In case you ever wondered, this is what a broccoli root looks like when it's mature. And this is going to get moved somewhere, but you can see, not broccoli, asparagus. And you can see the asparagus growing right out of it. It's a massive clump. And I'm just going to transplant that, let this do its thing, and then next year I'll have the Martha Washington, I always want to say Martha Stewart, Martha Washington asparagus in a new place. Going to be putting a grapevine inside my fenced area. Been wondering why some of my strawberries have been dying in here. And when I got up close, you can see all those specks. Those are some sort of aphid. They are everywhere. And the little flecks are them shedding their skin. I can see the aphids. And the plants are a little bit sticky because they're sucking the sap out of there. But they're all, look. So now I got to go check my other area and make sure I don't have aphids over there. But I'm going to have to treat this. I'll treat it with soapy water, maybe some sort of chemical spray, just get them under control. I do like having plants sort of spaced out in different places, because if this, well, we're going to walk by there, but hopefully my other towers, I don't have this going on. But if they were all close together, it might have been real easy for aphids to be everywhere. But every plant on here is covered in aphids. So it'll get a soapy water spray, top leaves, undersides. Strawberry leaves are really solid. They can take, soap is a chemical, so they can take chemicals being put on there. And I'll just really wash these down. And I'm going to leave the top off of it so that more insects that may want to eat these or deal with these can come in and do their thing. Spin around this way. And again, you see all the flowering stuff, that's all coming out now. I've been eating it pretty regularly. Here's a good example of the collards. I've been cutting off all the buds, all the flowers. These plants are going to get removed. The thicker stems will get thrown out, but all the leaves and everything like that are going to get chopped up, sauteed down, and I'll be eating them. I am getting ready to move in to, here's an example of bolting. So the spinach, as it warmed up over the last week, starting to send out a flower head. So I'll quickly eat all the leaves off of that, pull those plants out. You got to be ready to just get rid of stuff, even though I like watching it grow, like I love watching the collards over there. When they get to a size, they're not really doing anything for you in production of food, just remove them. But I'm getting really ready to start the warm weather crops, holding off again just for a little bit longer. Another example of 3 mustard greens and a kale. I want to see again if I can deter that butterfly. And that white crazy one that flutters around like it's, psychotic. Bib lettuce looks good. Endive, more bib lettuce, spinach. Everything is coming in nicely. And I do want the temperatures to cool down for the next 10 days or so. I don't mind if it's, 70 during the day, but I like when it's dropping into the 40s at night just to keep everything cool. Endive, beautiful. I love endive. It's one of my favorite greens. It's looking really good. This has a lot of weeds in there, but I've got turnips, onions from seeds. I'm going to be weeding this out today. And then I've got carrots in there. So a little bit of weeding, things will look good. Going to be doing a video on creating a planting hole. This is not the best soil right here. And you don't have to spend tons of money making perfect soil. So it'll be just digging a hole, filling it with amendments, dropping in a plant, and letting it go. It's a way to save money. And as you build your soil over time, you can plant this way. You just make the planting holes for your transplants and you don't have to spend the money to take care of the rest of the bed. Put down mulch, grass clippings, compost when you have it. Just let nature take care of it, and it's going to build great soil for you. I just wanted to cut in real quick because this is really important. This is the day after you're watching this video. Last night they said it was going to be 39 degrees. It's really hard to get an exact temperature at night. So I recommend really looking at whatever the weather person says the temperature is going to be and then subtract 6 degrees. Because of that basic formula, I didn't go all in with my tomatoes and pepper plants, or they would have been damaged by this frost, or I would have had to have protected them. It was a good enough frost to damage some warm weather crops. Now, I did put in 2 pepper plants that I just happened to buy, yesterday, and I thought, I'll just stick them in these containers. So let's just take a look at what happened. And they are pretty much dead. So this froze through, wasn't really paying attention, forgot my own advice. I could have simply put something over these and they would have been fine. So this was a waste of a couple of bucks. These plants are dead. They're not going to do well. In here, I have my sunken cold frame where I have peppers in there. They're fine. I even left the top open. The earth stays warmer down there, so it creates a pocket of warmth. So these larger peppers are okay. To take care of this, little trick is I buy vases at the thrift store, and you get them on sale days and they're only like $1 or $2. I could have simply, if I would have remembered my own advice, put this right over the pepper plants. You can get ones that are wider, and that would have protected them from the frost. Didn't follow my own advice, but I am glad, generally speaking, I didn't go all in with my tomatoes and peppers. Also wanted to add that this is an unheated greenhouse, but the tomatoes and peppers in here were fully protected. The frost did not get to them. Created enough of a difference in temperature by a couple of degrees that the frost just didn't form inside the greenhouse. The apple tree is blooming. I really like this addition to the garden. Like I said, I'm going to be bringing in a grapevine. So I'm bringing in more fruits to kind of just mix into my landscape here. All that has to come out. Those are actually turnips in there. Yank them out. I don't need them anymore. Starting to shade out the other plants. But the lettuce that overwintered, starting to form heads, looks beautiful. Carrots look good. I mean, I'm going to have a lot of greens to be given away to friends. More endive, more romaine. The beets are starting to come up. So the cylindra didn't pop. There's nothing there. The Detroit Goldens look good. The Detroit Dark Reds look good. And those are, I think, Detroit Supreme. They look good too. More turnips. Parsnips got to get pulled out. They're just about ready. Celery. Lots of rain. Warmer temperatures. Things are growing. I just need the cooler nights. That's going to bring us over to the shade cloth. So I have a cattle panel arch there. Last year I grew broccoli under there and it did really well. So, and I just did a video on the 3 things that you can do to, get full size broccoli heads or crowns. Mulch cools the soil. I mean, look how nice that looks. Shade cloth, when I was getting up to almost 80, I was using that. I could take this off now because it's going to be 55 today, but I'm just going to leave it up. Really cool down the soil area, and enough light is coming in here for the broccoli to form. It's not forming on these yet. That's a different variety. But the purple broccoli is starting to form a crown. And and especially when it gets to something like that, if the sun was beating down on here, that's not going to form into anything big. It's just going to loosen up and flower. So I'm putting on the shade cloth, and that's what I learned last year. So for me to be able to grow really from spring, early spring into late spring, early summer, I have to cool down the ground, or the broccoli just doesn't get to the size I want. Another area, same basic cool weather crops. You can see what's in there. What's kind of cool now is I had giant sunflowers here all last year. So these just popped. That's a mess of sunflowers. So I'll thin that down to 1. I have bunching onions coming up in there. But they have been sprouting on their own really for the last 30 days. So like in here, back in that corner, there's a sunflower. The sunflowers were all back in this box. I'll be replanting that. But you can see they all seeded. There's one there. And I've been thinning them out. Like I'll remove this one. And I'm going to let the sunflowers just come up in this box, grow, you know, through the cattle panel. I have my strawberries mixed in here. I'll be dropping cucumbers in here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sunflowers in here that all reseeded. And the example I like is they know what to do. We may spend a lot of time growing the sunflowers inside. We bring them outside. They don't do well. We plant them all. We don't protect them. Animals come in and eat them if it's not protected. But the seeds just fell last year. Sat perfectly fine, freezing in snow, covered in debris. And look at them. I mean, they're beautiful. These are going to take off so quickly in the next 2 to 3 weeks. People might be saying, how did you get your sunflower so large? I didn't do anything. I just let them sit there and, you know, let nature do its thing. Here's a good example. Here's another one that's just coming up. That will stay there. This is the day after, you know, shooting the video. And to go along with the frost theme, the sunflowers that seeded and grew themselves, they were hit by the frost and the leaves look pretty good. Thought I would just roll with, you know, the frost damage that might be in here since I was showing you the peppers earlier. Nothing wrong or damaged in all the sunflowers that are through here. They handled that really, you know, quick 32-degree frost, I think. But typically, if I would have planted these myself, they would not have been used to the cold weather. They would have been damaged, and they're going to be perfectly fine. It may be a little bit hard to see. That's another sunflower that's fine. These are pepper seeds that all sprouted a couple of days ago, overwintered, doing their own thing. Those are the cotyledons, the first leaves that come out. They can take a frost. So these peppers are perfectly fine. Root systems are developing. They weren't damaged or killed off by the frost, and these will take off. What also can get damaged are your potato leaves. They are not frost friendly. They look pretty good. They're, you know, if they freeze and then you touch them, they're all kind of weak and there's just no rigidity in there. These look pretty good. There's some damage down here, like these are kind of floppy. Those are probably die off. The good thing is the potatoes in the ground are fine. Damaged leaves of potatoes will grow back, so you're not going to really lose anything. And potatoes you start kind of early, so it's really hard to protect them from the frost. Like there's no way that I'm going to be able to put something over all of these. I could put a cloth or something like that. If the frost is coming, it's going to be pretty severe. But generally speaking, the peppers made it with a little bit of damage. My tower from Greenstalk Garden, I am affiliated with them, which I think a lot of you know. Best vertical growing system around. These are my cool weather crops. Broccoli in there, I have collards, lettuce, spinach, some garlic, peas down at the bottom. I'll be doing a whole video on growing in these, but I'm just letting these get up to speed before the next video actually. They're looking pretty good. They're going to get a light feeding. I'll be going over that in the video. But if you're interested in these towers, they are a little bit more expensive, but they're going to last forever. One of these tan towers I've had for over 8 years now. These sit out 24/7. They don't become brittle. They're not breaking. UV rays aren't degrading them or anything like that. So let's take a look at these strawberries now that I just was thinking about it. And I love strawberries, so I'm converting for the towers mainly to strawberries. I don't see any of the flecks or the aphids on these, so that's good news. So these should be fine. And I'm not going to come, the other thing that I recommend is, just because there's aphids on those strawberries, there's no need to come and spray all these down. It's just a waste of your time. It's putting chemicals, be it organic or not, soap is a chemical, that could possibly damage your plants. If you don't need it, don't use it. Like, just solve the problem on the plants that have the problem, I guess would be my point. So this is kind of cool. The blackberries kind of migrated over to here and they're looking really good. They're massive. It's a nice hedge. I've been digging them up, putting them into pots, and I'll be moving them around. This is the area I have kind of neglected, haven't gotten to it yet. This used to be where I grew all of my blackberries And I am still growing some. Let's get this one out of the way. But they've kind of slowed production down a little bit. So I cut them back a little bit more, removed anything that looked weak. Hopefully there's new growth down there. New canes will come. But I might have to replant this up a little bit with some more canes just to get the hedge back, really. So, I mean, this would have been full all the way up to here, all the way across at this point, and, 6 feet tall. And it's okay. I mean, they've kind of worked their way over slowly, and I'm going to have plenty of blackberries. This used to be for cherry tomatoes. I'll be growing tomatoes in here. This bed is really set up too. I'll be doing just a planting hole. Oh, look at that. So that's a sign. Those are all from ants. So I'll have to see what's going on in there. If it's the red ants or problematic ants, that is a problem. Certain ants eat root systems. Many ants just leave everything alone. So I got to explore and see what that is. Let me show you the asparagus I've been eating out of here. This is the purple passion variety. And they're all coming up. In this bed, I just prepped it. I put down cardboard. I didn't feel like weeding. Put down the mulch. Everything looks good. I don't see any of the green, the Martha Washington asparagus coming up. That's where that asparagus root system's going to go. Sometimes the green variety comes later, but I feel like in this area, maybe it gets more water or certain conditions, the purple just seems to be taking over and the green seems to be dying off. Quick look. I'm in the process of fixing up the garden over there. Lots of garlic, potatoes in containers. All the containers back there are filled with potatoes. I love potatoes, and I've been saying, grow the things you like. Don't feel like you have to, grow everything. I know for me, I was growing a lot more than I could eat. That's always going to happen because it's a teaching channel. But I was growing things that I didn't really like, didn't know what to do with them. So I'm just simplifying my list, giving away a lot of stuff, but really growing what I enjoy eating. And potatoes is one of them. So I'm growing more potatoes than I've ever grown before. That's that fig tree that survives. And I'm pretty sure it's a fig tree that produces figs on second-year wood. But it gets too cold here. The wood dies off. I don't get any figs. It regrows. So that's got to be dug out. Mixed in there is a hops vine. So I'll be cleaning that up. Blueberries. I mean, I'm no blueberry expert. And my soil is not super acidic over here. In fact, my soil really sits at about a 7. I've brought this down a little bit. But you don't have to over worry about the soil for blueberries. They grow in a nice range. I do give these an acidic water-soluble fertilizer right at the root system, and they do well. You can see how beautiful they are. The nectarine tree, the plum trees are massive. They've been hacked back, they've been pruned. This is supposed to be a dwarf tree, it's not. And I'm just going to keep cutting them back and keeping them to the size that I want for this space. But this is the fruit room, and it is going to be filled with blackberries, blueberries, hopefully fruit from the trees, strawberries right over here on my left. And I've got strawberries in containers. Hop vines, which was a mistake. I will grow them. Well, not really a mistake. I just packed a lot into here. So they spread out along the ground. You really have to cut them back and focus them, like where those poles are. You want the main growth coming where the poles are, because they're going to grow 14, 16 feet tall. But they spread out. I don't keep up with them well, and they kind of take over the space. So I'm going to be working on taking care of that. This is just like a little showcase area that I like for when I come into the garden. So we have Swiss chard, red romaine, kale, endive, collards. Put in some onions. Peas are coming up. Those are potatoes. So you can do a lot in a little space and grow below the surface. I'll have potatoes. You just have to make sure when you dig them up, you don't have anything growing around there that's going to be disturbed. And then I'm going to be putting pepper plants right in the middle. Radishes. This was the first wave that I put out back on February 26th. And I've been eating them. They're not quite as big as I want, but they're a good size. I have the other waves of radishes started. You saw some that are only a couple weeks old. The muscadines are all starting to put out leaves. Still don't really know how to prune. I mean, I sort of do, but I'm just hacking stuff back, following light instructions that are on YouTube from articles, and they produce. But the mistake I made is they're just crazy growers. Like, I have 2 plants down there. Should have just put one, like one right in the middle instead of 2. One over on the right, one over on the left. These could probably all get cut down much smaller. But I get the muscadines. I like how they look. They cover up this space. And design-wise, my southern sun and western sun is over there. So as it comes down this way, it hits the muscadines. They're not causing shade to come inside the garden. So if you kind of have a strategy of where you're placing things based on where the sun is, you can protect your other plants from being overshadowed. All right, let's go over to the greenhouse. These are all divisions that I did, I don't know, like last November. Coming in really well. They've been getting watered with a water-soluble fertilizer. Nice and green. Plenty of plants to sell if you're going to be selling, but to really, again, repopulate my property and give away. I'll be actually, this year I'm going to be trading plants with other people that are doing the same thing, so that's kind of fun. 2 really big tulip poplars that I have to dig up the roots because they came out of the containers. They're in the ground, but I'm going to be planting them on the property. Beautiful red currant, really starting to take over and establish in this corner, so I want to give that plant all this space. Also radishes. Now these are a little bit beat up because they needed to be fed. I just fed them. But radishes, you know, the ones I have over there have beautiful green leaves. They're bigger. These were put in 1 month after the radishes you just saw, and they're starting to form. But what I wanted to show you is with a little bit of care, you can grow in 4 or 6 inches worth of soil in these flower boxes. I do it every year. These will all take care of themselves. The radishes are going to be delicious, but you don't need a lot of space. I mean, it's really just flower boxes that I built. And you can see how many radishes you can get out of there. So let's go over to the greenhouse. Things are coming in nicely. And you know, when it's cold, I want it to be warmer. When it got too warm, now I want it to be colder. Like, this is the perfect temperature right now for the cool crops. So this is kind of sometimes how my yard is left. Containers for potting up. Stuff is laying around. When we come around here, you'll see the chaos. I've been whipping through everything in the greenhouse. Well, let's look in there first, and then we'll get to the mess. But I've been trying to get out all the cool weather crops. These are Tiny Tims with some tomatoes on there. These are going to be trimmed up and actually get planted in the next couple of days out into my green-stalk towers. So most of the cool weather crops have been moved out, planted up. Have my peppers sitting out here. They're doing fine, just FYI. When your plants are really close to the glass or the polycarbonate, they dry out really quickly. So the rest of the plants look fine, but the ones right by the glass, a lot of them died off. Tomatoes look good. They're all going to get potted up. Some lettuces. I grew more than I needed, of course. I always do. Cilantro back there. But this space is not huge, but you're able to really pack tons of, you know, growing plants into a small greenhouse. I really, really enjoy it. Look at the beautiful artichokes back there. They're going to be going out into one of my perennial gardens with flowers and stuff like that. And that is kohlrabi, so they're going to be coming out today, letting them kind of get used to the full sun. When you're in a greenhouse, sometimes the glass or the plastics have UV protection or coating on them, so the UV rays coming in aren't as intense as the actual sun. So yeah, these are tougher. They're not going to need a lot of time to acclimate outside, but I like to kind of be a little bit more cautious. So when I pot them up over here, I just drop them down here where they get more morning sun and then some western sun as the sun comes all the way around. And then after 2 or 3 days, they get moved to wherever I want them to go. So I just bring everything out. I probably made this mess 3 days ago. I got to clean it up because I don't think the neighbors like to really look at it. But I'm, having a great time out here. I have more plants going than I need. Got to clean this up. Just making a double note to myself in my brain. So what happens is, like, I'll come out here, I'll do this 2 or 3 days ago. I forget about it. Like, I go to the other side of the greenhouse, I'm in the garden, and it's not like I want to leave it here. I just don't even think about it. Anyway, things are getting potted up. More lettuces. Staying on the shadier side of the greenhouse because it was getting so warm. When you have like your cool weather crops in these little containers and the sun gets into the 70s, these heat up easily to 80, 90 degrees. So sometimes they get a message to bolt when they're really small. So you don't want these flats sitting outside in full sun when you have cool weather crops in there, because it's going to heat up so much, it's going to change the nature of how they grow. So you can put them, on a shadier side of the house. In this case, it's the greenhouse. The southern western sun gets blocked and they look beautiful. So all that stuff has to get out into the garden or be given away. And then, well, you know what? We're going to walk over to my ramps that I'm growing. They look good, no complaints. Water-soluble fertilizer is greening them up. We're getting lots of rain. They're liking the warmth. Things are going well. So this is kind of, I've worked my way from my property from out that way into the garden, and this is the next place that needs care. Slow and steady, we're going to get there. Trimmed up all my muscadines. Branches are still sitting there from a couple weeks ago. They look good. The muscadines here, again, I got one plant, 2 plants. I could have probably just put one right in the middle, and that single plant would have taken care of all this tunnel. I just didn't need to. In here, we have weeds, and weeds, but I've got potatoes on all the containers. Left stuff chaotic again. Today is actually a big cleanup day. That's what I'm going to be doing all day. Garlic looks beautiful. More onions right in there. Slowly getting things under control. And I wanted to show you this space. These are ramps, and they taste like garlic. This is their, let's see, 1 year, 2, this is their 3rd year growing. They're delicious. I'm still letting them establish. I had them in different containers, and there's a couple left in there. I'm moving them all to this container. They have to be protected because the deers will come and eat them down. But they're kind of like a delicacy. You find them a lot of times foraging in the woods. I got mine off of Etsy. Just ordered a bunch of them 3 years ago. Stuck them in here, and they're starting to come in. So they're delicious. I like using them in salads. Well, you know what? We're going to officially end where I always end, in the compost pile. Mushrooms. Going to be getting some more wine caps and some other mushrooms to kind of reseed this area. I still get them, but I feel like something happened and they're not coming in as strong. So I'm going to leave the hay here, put the mushroom spawn across all this, put down a good 4 inches of wood chips, and then I'll get my mushrooms again, and they should come in with really just a fury. And I think we'll end with my pitch for composting. So this is an ongoing compost pile of leaves. This one is just about finished up. These are leaves that were, I don't know, they're probably 3-4 years old, and I kept filling up high. I've been using it, but I just want to show you. Again, this is just amazing stuff. I've been digging it out, filling my gardens. This is what you want. So if you have a chance to start a compost pile, really get it going, and just maybe concentrate with leaves and grass, and in a couple of years you could have beautiful stuff, save a lot of money, and your plants absolutely love this. I don't need anything else. Like, I could actually grow in that. Mix it in with my soil, more compost under there. This is the grass from this year. I'm just making layers. Just get it started. That's the biggest barrier to composting, is people just don't get it started. Hopefully we keep kicking and living and the gardens keep going, This is all going to break down. You're going to have tons of organic matter, tons of nutrients to put into your garden. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and please subscribe. I'll teach you how to grow food, have some fun, save money, but most of all, hopefully just help you enjoy your gardens and share it with family and friends. Thanks for watching.